Welcome everyone, Simon here from the Whales of Wall Street. We have an update video on EstateX. This is a project relating to the sphere of real estate in a tokenized fashion utilizing blockchain technology. Something we've been speaking about for many years now. There's a couple of other projects that we've focused on, like Propy, for example. We'll use that as a reference in a moment anyway. But EstateX is a kind of a company or project that I've been keeping an eye on, I guess, for around about a year now. The roadmap's very extensive. We'll look at that very quickly in a second. There's been some updates quite recently in the last week or so in relation to actual launches and particularly the token aspect on exchanges as well. So some exciting times ahead. I'm going to give a balanced view on this because it hasn't officially properly launched in that sense, and certainly the availability of buying property assets using the EstateX token aspect as well is not quite in fruition. So we can measure this up with Propy's success as an example from the last couple of years to give us a bit of an indication, but also throw some kind of industry or sector information out there as well, some statistics, because as most people know, the real estate, whether that's from a residential perspective or commercial or industrial, is a gigantic multi-trillion-dollar market out there, massive sector, and will only continue to grow. However, now we have the adoption or ability of cryptography and the utilization in regards to NFT application, if you like, for a better wording, for real estate. This allows people to open up the fractionalization of real estate, meaning you don't have to buy the whole thing or have a mortgage for the whole thing. You can buy a certain percentage of it. And this as well, if you've got an internet connection and the ability to use an exchange and buy tokens and therefore buy fractionalizations of deeds, the market can go absolutely parabolic in the housing industry. Obviously there's loads of pros and cons to that, but the development of KYC, smart contracts on blockchain, the verification, the process aspect of this, the speed at which it can be done is absolutely phenomenal. When I went to the trade finance event a year or so ago with I mentioned before, Andre Carsterman kindly hosted that and invited me, and it was absolutely incredible to hear a pilot scheme. I think it was Lloyds Bank, just about it was literally a fake situation in that sense. It was about land, and that could sometimes take up to 2 years to progress, and it literally took within a couple of weeks because it used the ability of several parties buying at the same time, different percentages each of that land ownership, utilizing blockchain, smart contract deeds. Everything was just done. So you can imagine that transpiring to the speed of the economy and markets in general, how much this could really affect and change. So guys, let's go into this. Before we do, don't forget to check out the other videos on the channel. Of course, as always, don't forget to smash that subscribe button if you have not done so already, and please do hit the like button as well so we can get to new audiences. It'd be fantastic to see that number grow as well. So let's go into this topic. EstateX, first and foremost, just a quick recap of pretty much what I just mentioned. The ability of tokenizing real estate. Increasing liquidity is a big thing. We'll talk about that a bit more detail in a second. Streamlining the process, we've already mentioned the speed of which, and enabling digital ownership. And in fact, to add to this, is enabling more people to be accessible towards this kind of market as well. The utilization of NFTs is always an interesting topic. I prefer like physical NFTs, if you like. Everyone was so obsessed with the artworks and things a couple of years ago, gaming, etc., which is still very valid. It's not going anywhere. It's going to evolve all the time, but it gave the principle the opportunity to showcase the potential problems in the world regarding ownership or ability to own, the opening of that opportunity to where now pretty much anything and everything that we talk about on the channel, I mentioned diamonds before, I mentioned transactions in general, can be literally utilized within the NFT aspect. So I think it's quite interesting. And just to reiterate, owning the NFT can be equivalent to owning the property. Transferring can change the ownership, and also hold data, past sales addresses. This is an interesting point, actually, before we talk about EstateX in particular. I find this fascinating. So if you think about it, everything and anything can be on blockchain. That includes commodities, materials, everything. So we think about that logistic perspective. Let's just, for argument's sake, say the UK imports its wood from X forest in X country. We can see the sustainability factor of that by scanning QR codes these days and things like that. If you go and check the short video that I did a couple of days ago about the egg box that I found in Gran Canaria, it's ridiculous. Scanning a QR code on an egg box tells you everything and anything about the chickens, where it was, the sustainability, the story of the company, etc., etc. So think about that. Then think about the cost of everything associated with building a house, or a house that is existing, or perhaps an existing house that has a extension or an add-on which has some form of value. At this moment in time, this is a very manual process. You get a surveyor to come over, survey everything, blah, blah, blah. Now, with the introduction of this, and this, in terms of the ability to trace things, to confirm the pricing of things, instead of like a randomly made number in people's heads and based on market evaluations of houses in the area, supply, demand, etc., it can all just be automated. So you're not getting fobbed off. The market, I was speaking to someone about this the other day. It's quite interesting because the house itself doesn't actually change, really. I mean, some principles of extension, etc., we've mentioned, but the market value based on supply, demand, the area, all of these kind of variables, well, actually, it would be a lot fairer system if everything was automated, perhaps, and more simultaneous with AI algorithmic data and the ability of blockchain to be able to absorb all this information. So if you did have an extension, it would know all the materials used, it would know the labor costs, everything like this, and factor that in by itself, rather than someone just guessing or saying, oh yeah, nice conservatory, mate, let's add an extra, I don't know, 2-3 grand on it, what the hell, let's go for it. So I think that's a really interesting defining point that will definitely evolve over the coming years. But EstateX is very much renowned, similar to what we've mentioned before with Propy. Propy is very much more advanced in my opinion already. It's been around for a long time. The owners or the founders are fantastic. And I believe, if I remember correctly, previous estate agents. So they have that experience and that knowledge. So when you're an investor and you're looking about this and teams and what they're actually available and able to do, it's actually quite interesting and definitely a big initiative to when you're making investments. So, you can actually go online now and see some of these properties, whether you're buying them outright or buying them, fragments of it, fractionalization. The fact of blockchain, the deeds that are incorporated in smart contracts will enable you to be a part of this. It's almost easier, I say, than ever before to get involved in property. Incredible. So there's loads of breakdown in here about the property, where it's located. So most of these are obviously American location-wise, but you get the idea, right? You get the opportunity in the mind. So EstateX is doing quite similar things. Again, as I said earlier in the video, they haven't quite fulfilled their launch strategy yet, but that is to come. We'll talk about that in a second. But in terms of the ecosystem, the availability, the opportunity of what is possible with the tokenization of EstateX is definitely similar to Propy. It could be scaled up quite significantly. So the most recent update from these guys, you see here from the family of EstateX, 17th of December, literally 2 days ago. Please share the launch dates with you. Okay, launch dates and listing strategy announced. So this is where it gets quite exciting. It's almost like not necessarily a pre-sale, but giving you a bit of a head up of what's to come. So I think the dates in here, 29th of January, not too far off. And in fact, if you scale to their roadmap, they were trying to do this in Q4. Roadmaps, take it with a pinch of salt, guys. It's same with white papers. They're just essentially a bit of a guideline, a bit of a thought process of the things that they want to try and achieve, not necessarily things that they will always achieve or do at all in general. But okay, you could argue that maybe they're a month behind. So what? It doesn't really matter too much. But here we go. TGE, ESX listings, Q4. Okay, they're a month out. So what? It's done. It's getting there. And that availability will open up. So we'll do a separate video perhaps on the ESX token itself in terms of those listing formats. But the key thing here, as I mentioned, is that it will be on multiple CEXs and DEXs, or central exchanges, decentralized exchanges, and using the bridges of ETH and Sol. It's quite interesting for the ETH perspective. I always quite find that quite a difficult one to work with bridging wise because of the costs and things. But Sol, of course, is an absolute powerhouse the last year or so with its integration, its upgrades, and more projects than ever before are using it as a network and a bridging facility. So that's going to be very interesting to see that development. Interestingly, on this post as well, they do mention things about collaborators, influencers using mini games and AMAs to drive millions of users to socials and the virality of everything to try and increase the hype. It's a bit of an interesting tactic because traditionally companies wouldn't necessarily go out on a whim and suggest what they're doing in advance with influence and things like that. It's almost like it's preemptive and calculated, almost forced, when actually it should almost maybe be a bit of a surprise, or people just find it naturally as it goes along. It's almost like now we're being told to look out for these things. So there may be an extra pressure on the company and the business and the people that work there to facilitate all of this in the right way. That's just my thoughts and opinions. Things are evolving and changing all the time. I'm one of those in marketing for 12 odd years. I get it. Like, we have to adapt, we have to evolve, and it's always interesting to see new ideas. So as I said, it's interesting to see this. I'm hoping that this isn't trying to just force something. I can't quite get the words out. I'm hoping you know what I kind of mean on this, to initiate all these campaigns, these marketing aspects. So it's almost like the push of the token rather than what the company is capable of doing. I think that's probably the way I'm trying to say it. It's more of a focus on the token aspect rather than what it's delivering as a company. I'm sure those will go two and two hand in hand as we go along, of course. But the key principle, as I've mentioned, is that it's coming. Finally, we can see some development. There's some excitement building up with it. For one, I've been excited about EstateX. I've had some reservations that I've said in previous videos. I've seen comments on the videos prior to the ones I've been made about it being scam and this, that, and the other, or it's not doing anything. Again, it's about timing. And maybe their timing is perfect because there are companies out there that have been doing it. You can learn from that. You've also got the aspect of regulation, especially here in the UK. It's massive. Especially when we talk about the video yesterday, if you haven't watched it yet, about digital security. This is very important topics. They have to align. The frameworks have to be there. The legislation has to be there. The protection of the consumer, the buyer, the seller, everything will have to incorporate this blockchain philosophy. But that's not just the click of a finger. That's very difficult to do overnight. So perhaps their timing is good in the sense that it's a progressive market, it's a progressive opportunity, and it just needs that awareness and that education. So in my opinion, with the likes of EstateX and many other companies out there trying to do similar things, or other categories or sectors doing similar things, they have to really focus on the education. Why is this important? Why is it so significant as a market? And I haven't really seen anything from them statistics wise about the markets, but I thought it's a good opportunity because I like the data aspects, as you know, in my videos, to talk about that. We're going to align with this aspect of liquidity, reaching of the token. That's great. But what about the actual market? So just to give you a bit of an overreach or an overarching thought process here, the UK's real estate market, okay, so I'm pretty sure that's probably comprising of residential and commercial, but either way, the number's unbelievable. The real estate market is valued at approximately $23.32 trillion. Okay, and actually the residential aspect of that is 19.3 trillion. So it gives you a bit of an indication about that kind of split. Now globally, I sort of had to go, wow, this is unbelievable. So this is basically about an existing market, right? So the global total value of real estate is estimated at $379 trillion. This statistic, by the way, was from about a year and a half ago, so probably more than that now. But us little Brits, that's about 6-ish%, I think. I was trying to do the maths earlier, 6% or so of the global real estate market. Pretty much peanuts, but they all count, right? Every little helps. Absolutely phenomenal amounts of that. So that is the market opportunity share-wise. If you think how many people your own property within that market, How many would like to but can't because they can't afford full mortgages or whatever? But now we have the ability to do partial, and it's no different really. Well, it is to a bigger extent, but it's no different in the principles of us buying tokens on exchanges, making money off those, selling them on, trading, whatever. We can be doing that with the fractionalization of housing. A property's value, as mentioned earlier, with the variables and the opportunities of housing prices going up and down, etc., the fluctuations of that, understanding those markets and trends, that can be taken advantage of as well. I don't know how the principles and legalities of that are, because I think housing property is slightly different to trading assets. But then equally, whole point of digital securities and the ability for physical NFTs is that our physical products and services will be tokenized. So I don't really see a massive difference there. But if we argued that, say, blockchain or the NFT capability aspect was integrated over these coming years, what could that look like for potentially in 2030? Well, we take that big, huge number of 23 trillion in the UK or 379 trillion globally. It's very hard to sort of dictate the overall topic number, but I've seen things. I think I was reading, was it Boston Consulting something or other? It's they've got loads of statistics and information on their website. They were estimating that the tokenization of illiquid assets, including of course real estate, could be between 2 and 16 trillion by 2030. So I think, if I remember correctly, from the home side of things, or home equity, this related to about 3 trillion. So this is an average conservative cost. For 2040 and beyond, I mean, who knows? It's really just a question of, let's see how the next few years plan out, especially up to 2030, and then we can align that forecasting further. But the increasing of liquidity, the broadening of access is huge. The operational efficiency, utilizing the likes of blockchain, is basically going to streamline everything. Those existing numbers of like 23 and 379 trillion respectively of UK and globally could be gigantic by 2030 because of the opportunity of availability. Now, what that will then do is potentially increase the demand of housing, i.e., there's demand for this, we need to build more of them. The question is, who's living in the sodding things? I mean, you go into London most of the time. I've been to China a couple of times, same sort of principle in most areas or districts. You go into some of these apartment blocks and they're pretty much empty, because what they do is people buy them as asset holdings, not really fussed about the rental of them. Yeah, sure, they got a holiday home for whenever they want to use it, but 9 times out of 10 they're empty. So we've got a big homeless problem. We've got issues with inflation, interest rates, which hopefully blockchain and AI can fix to an extent. But we've got a load of people that can't afford housing or whatever the reason or the situation is. So it's a really interesting one, because what we're actually buying into, are we buying it to live in it or are we buying it to invest in it? Either way, as an investor, it's really interesting and potentially exciting. As I said, there's lots of things to go through the cracks of all of this, but in that principle, when we're talking about what's achievable here, not just with EstateX, Chainlink got great information here. We know Quant's heavily involved in the interoperability aspect, opening up the bridging of everything, the opportunity for cross-border, investing over the other side of the world. Imagine sitting in your seat or your sofa at home and you're just browsing on your phone all the different houses, and you go, yeah, fancy a bit of that house, cool, fractionalize that, I'm owning 1% of it, 2% of it, who knows what the percentage is, doesn't matter. You've got ownership of it and you can potentially make yield on it. Some of them, I think it's whether it's through Propy or some other projects I've seen, there's the rental aspect. So whoever's managing it is getting a fee. Whoever's got the blockchain and the tokenization aspect of it is getting fees and commission, etc. But then you are getting the yield of the rental, obviously a ratioed percentage of it, depending on how many people are sharing the property's value. It's no different to almost like a share scheme or a syndicate scheme. When you own a boat, you don't always necessarily own it, but you share the responsibilities of the maintenance, the costs, etc. But you can use it X amounts of times of the year. I'm sure there's some similar approaches like that when we look at this. But back to EstateX, because I appreciate we've kind of like fallen on the topic overall as a general consensus. I still think that's very important, because when we're looking at the launch of EstateX or the ESX token, you're asking the question, well, why is this different to others, or what can this actually achieve? What's the point in it? Well, there's some of the answers for you. So I've done a lot of the legwork there. Hopefully, from the research perspective, I do say always do your own research on top of that, but we can at least keep an eye on further about the ESX launch. And I think it's absolutely critical that we do that. And it's also critical to understand these kind of markets and opportunities that are available, not just for now in 6 months' time. I'm talking about the next 10, 20. This is so early. So early. Think how many people make money on housing. They don't always do it flipping houses within a 6 month. I mean, some people do in 6 months. Most people have to wait 2 to 5 years before they get a yield reality. Either it reinvests into another property, or they take the money, or they've had enough of it, go retire, whatever. Imagine the speed of that increasing significantly with that. So you can go on CoinMarketCap. The EstateX has got a listing on there. Obviously, there's nothing trading wise available because it's not launched yet, but I'm really interested to see the development of this innovation, really. And I think it needs more competition in this area. I think the real estate market and tokenization aspect, or blockchain, crypto, whatever you want to call it, is so underwhelming right now. Yet with other ones, like in the finance industry, I mean, even like meme coins, look how many millions of meme coins there are, but the limitation on what we got with real estate. So I, for one, always say with a pinch of salt, because it hasn't launched yet, we haven't got definitive information, and that's not a negative. That's just saying I'm excited for what's to come. I'm excited what we might see, and we just got to measure the progress of it. But I'm doing my duty to make people aware of this whole scenario and what's potentially to come. So let's keep an eye on it together. If you see anything before I do, please let me know, whether it's on the community chat or whatever. I'm going to try and launch the Telegram group again, hopefully, just to see if anyone wants to, have those conversations more regularly, or, updates are always great to see. I can jump on some videos if possible. But let's keep an eye on it. I'm excited. Let us know in the comments below what you think. Let's see you when they launch. Take care. Bye-bye.